We're here today at Black Vines 2020, our 9th annual Black Vines event, and today is Black Vines Day in Berkeley, California. We'll have 13 Black-owned wineries pouring wines. We have 6 artists here. We have live jazz with the culinary experience being provided by Chef's Catering. The day will unfold with just love and peace and joy and happiness all in one room, us, celebrating Black future. Just an event that's here to really propel us to that next level. This is an important event because how often are you able to see us together in a space celebrating things such as wine, art, and jazz in one space? It's important for the babies to see us smiling. It's important for us to patronize one another in ways that we might not even know we exist. So it's very important for the future of the Black ecosystem to have events like this just to continue to push us forward. The future of Black Vines are more events, more partnerships, some movements in the digital space. Because we provide this platform physically, we also want to provide it digitally. So we're really going to move into this wine tech space in the coming months and years and just continue to push forward this Black excellence, continue to celebrate Black future, and continue to provide a platform for all of us to be together and enjoy peace, love, and happiness.
All right. So, as you can see, that space was filled with love. And what we've been able to do is figure out a way to bring that same energy by offering a COVID friendly virtual tasting experience that is tailored specifically for your teams and or your clients. You're able to bring your community safely together, filling a virtual space with love, peace, and joy. Celebrate your 2020 accomplishments as you sample wine with the person whose vision has been actualized in the varietals.
1 minute.
Engage in meaningful dialogue as you share time and space with those who have supported you all year long. With a decade under our belt, we have been able to build phenomenal relationships with over 1/3 of all Black-owned wineries, fueled by trust and quality of service. So again, I ask, have you considered how you will celebrate your team's accomplishments and or your client successes? Additionally, to the sip and pitch
30 seconds.
Let's figure out a way that we can help supply your sip and pitches with the sip. You can reach us at blackvines.net or email us at info@blackvines.net. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Peace.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Fern. That was absolutely amazing. And I think everybody is ready for a glass of wine and celebration, including jazz and everything, just got us right in the mood. So first, I'm going to kick it off to, let's give it to Tiffany, starting off with our judges.
Oh, well, thank you, Alicia. I don't even drink, and I was impressed by the presentation. Exactly, Alicia, just so I don't go off target, do you want me to start judging now? Do I still get the 10 minutes, or you want me to share my thoughts right away? Because it's my first time at Sip and Pitch.
Just share your thoughts, just share your thoughts.
Oh, oh well, fantastic. I think the video was a great touch. It really helped to summarize Black Vines and what it had to offer without necessarily a slide presentation or what we're typically accustomed to. So the video was really enticing and and frankly, great timing, considering that we haven't been able to be together. So it kind of brought us back into that space. As I would say, like from a critical perspective, it would be ideal if Fern, you didn't read what you had to share, but really spoke from the heart, because it sounds like Black Vines is born from, you know, your spirit, your soul, your experience, what you truly love, and it would have come across a little bit more more genuine if you weren't reading your pitch. Thank you. Thanks for your patience, Alicia.
No, thank you so much for that, Tiffany. Fern, did you have anything that you wanted to?
Oh yeah, no, thank you. That was my fear, like the reading versus like just speaking from the heart. So thank you for acknowledging that, because I will ditch the phone next time for sure. Thank you.
Sure, I'm sure it'll come out naturally and perfectly.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that's just good advice in general. I know as for myself, as I'm doing more presentations, I try to have a little sketch of what I'm supposed to say. But now if I just give it out generally and just talk from the heart, you know, I see that it kind of runs a little bit more smoothly. So no, thank you for that, Tiffany. Next, France.
Sure. To be honest, you know, Tiffany stole some of my thunder. I thought the visuals were great. You know, I would agree with Tiffany. Basically, from a critical perspective, I would say that because of the reading, you sounded maybe a little nervous, Fern, at the beginning. But the funny thing is, if you look at yourself talking in the video, to Tiffany's point, it was a lot more natural. You brought everybody in. It was a great escape for the few minutes that we were there celebrating with you. And you know, the Fern that was in the video to me seemed perfectly natural. You can sense your energy through the clarity that you presented at. So I would say, you know, definitely, you know, just, yeah, it's hard when you're nervous not to have your notes there to read, but I would really go off the top of your head, because you can tell that it's something that's in your heart. And so as long as you really stick to that, regardless as if you forget a thing or two, the spirit of what it is you'll say will probably come out naturally, just like it did in the video, would be the only thing that I would add.
You know, Franz, I would have to just add to that. Hi, folks. Sabrina Kent, she, her. I'm an SVP at NGLCC. If you've been to other sip and pitch events, you know that I'm usually the one doing a lot of talking on this. So I'm excited to have Alicia and Sean here today to run the show. But I would just have to agree with everything Franz just said and Tiffany said. Fern, you know your product and your event better than anyone else. And you can probably talk circles, and I know those nerves come into play, but that passion is there. I mean, look at that finished product, that video that you had. It's beautiful. I thought that that was absolutely phenomenal. So the more that you can bring that passion and enthusiasm and know-how that you have to the table, the better off you will be and the stronger your pitch will be. I do have one question, because you mentioned being able to do this in a COVID safe and friendly way. Can you talk a little bit about that and share a bit more in that respect?
Absolutely. So what we've done as of late, given the COVID restrictions, is created virtual tasting experiences. How we're able to kind of bring that same energy is, one, I am there facilitating the tasting experience. Two, you actually are tasting with the winemaker, the owner of the winery. So it kind of gives that intimate feel. And the third thing that we do, we create space for breakout rooms where you're able to just kind of mix and mingle. So that's how we're able to bring that same energy into a virtual space.
Awesome. And Tiffany, I think you have another question.
Yeah, so Fern, I saw it flash by really quickly. I know you did, but you mentioned the digital platform for Black Vines, which was kind of like, it seemed that it was separate from what are you doing for the, you know, for your company's accomplishments and creating a dialogue of the wine and the virtual celebration. It seemed completely separate, because you saw the two wine glasses pop up, like the logo, and then there was no more info. And I'm like, I need more of that. So what was that? Tell us more about that, please.
Yeah, so that was actually what we've done like right before COVID kind of shut things down. We started a membership model. So in that membership model, we've literally just secured our 22nd Black owned winery, where as a member of the Black Vines kind of community, you get access to discounts to 22 different Black owned wineries, two bottle shops in New York, and a restaurant in New York. And we continue to grow that membership community week over week. But the focus of this pitch was specifically about the virtual tastings, but that's just another element of Black Vines that we've kicked off. And so there's an annual membership and then a monthly membership. The annual membership is $200 a year, and then the monthly membership is $19.99 a month. And with that, you get discounts to the wineries as well as discounts to anything that we provide as well.
Now, frankly, I think that was definitely worth the pitch.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think, you know, from the amount of individuals who are watching who could potentially partake in that versus those who have, you know, maybe the budget to invest in the virtual celebration. Like, I would imagine that there's a difference, but I wasn't clear on exactly what you were pitching. Based on the video, the fact that we had to go from a pre-COVID space to a post-COVID space to COVID-safe space to the online platform that kind of flashed by my eyes, and then the virtual celebration. So I wasn't quite sure what you were pitching. You might want to have, you know, be a little bit clearer there.
Okay.
Yes, and Tiffany, that was a great point. But you know, it also shows the transitioning of what businesses do, especially during this time. So everybody is really excited about it. And I had somebody that was like, "Oh yeah, we need to know more about the membership." So one thing about, you know, working in the supplier diversity space and actually certifying, you know, being part of the certification process, I really don't have time to like actually read and get to know the suppliers, you know, to what they actually do. So I love watching these sip and pitches, and now I'm participating. I'm actually moderating it. I mean, Sabrina is a tough act to follow. So, you know, so bear with me on that. But no, this was great. Is there any other questions or any other feedback that y'all might have for Fern? All right, Fern, do you have any questions for the judges?
Now the feedback was super solid, and thank you so much, Tiffany, especially for that last piece of focusing in on specific items to pitch, which is super dope, and then also adding the membership piece, which, you know, I was a little hesitant to do, but thank you. This was so dope. I can't thank you enough.
Well, thank you so much for that, Fern, and thank you for presenting.
Would it be okay to
Alicia?
throw a question out? Would it be okay to throw a question out?
Go for it.
Sure.
So Fern, I'm in the events industry too, and my heart, you know, was out to you as you were speaking because you had so much to give, and we're going to need events so much when people can get back together. So your time is coming. The one thing I would really love to just encourage is the clarity of what your message is. You know, there was a mention already of your call to action, but people want to be able to help. Like, we're all listening to this and being excited to support you, but we need to know what it is we can do that's going to help. And so that clarity of message really gives us the ability to respond. And when the world is so crazy, I can imagine there are so many different things that you want right now. So how do you pick one? But it's going to be essential to have one and then really be clear about it so we can really connect around it to support you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that feedback too. I didn't take into consideration just the desire to support in these times. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, thank you again so much, Fern with Stroud Management Enterprises. We appreciate you for joining us, and thank you for our judges and other suppliers and participants with your questions. We will now go on to our next supplier to do their pitch, MW Consulting Firm.
Hello.
Hi, Marcus.
Hi. I am trying to screen you. The screen share. Do you want to continue? Okay, I'm eligible to let me share my screen one moment. Okay. Can you see my screen?
We can.
Oh, alrighty, one moment. Let me put this full screen and we can get moving. Hi, everybody. I'm Marcus A. Williams, and I'm the principal consultant and owner of MW Consulting. MW Consulting was established in 2016 in Ward 7 of Washington, D.C. as a full-service communications and IT consulting firm. We have a host of certifications, of course, including the LGBTBE. Since its inception in 2016, we've been fortunate enough to sign 35 contracts that have yielded 75 projects, around 75 projects executed. Most of our client base is in DC government. Across the various different contracts have allowed us to work across various industries. Two of our most active industries have been the economic development space and the medical science and public health space. To execute these projects across these various industries, we have 26 consultants with 10 plus years of experience. Their experience have allowed them to have varied expertise areas. So why this is important to clients is because we're able to juggle multiple projects, and there's always someone on first, second, and third to make sure that we're providing proficient service support to clients. On the communication side of the house, we have 5 buckets. We have your creative services, we have your digital strategy, media relations, public relations, and strategic management. So it's basically what you're saying, who you're speaking with, and how you look while you're presenting to them. And on the IT side of the house, it's twofold. It's IT consulting services, where we go into organizations and we look at their programs or initiatives, and we figure out how communications software platforms or devices can help streamline those processes. And we have IT infrastructure. So that's where you have your cabling, your servers, everything to make sure that these new technologies are functioning correctly. Areas where we can be the most beneficial to clients is writing their narrative and helping them tell their story in an engaging way, whether that be through text, visual, or media ad buys, as well as strategic planning, public relations strategic planning in particular, where we are looking at how to strengthen relationships with partners, as well as touch stakeholders through things like conferences, events, focus groups, etc. One of our clients have been the DC Promise Neighborhood Initiative. Now, we were brought into this project to assist with their annual gala, with promoting it and getting registration up. But in doing that, we saw a lot of different gaps, whether that be through the messaging, through the creative, or through the digital approach to promoting the gala. So we came up with a comprehensive strategy to make sure that what we're saying is clean across the board, as well as what speaking engagements the executive director will promote this to, what those collateral materials would look like, and how the target audience would be reached. As a result of this, our contract was expanded, and we became the trusted advisor to the executive director on all things communications for the organization. The website saw an increase of 35% increase in traffic, and the attendee count was exceeded, or goal was exceeded, by 125,000 attendees. I'm sorry, 125 attendees. The DC Office of the Chief Medical Examiner is a perfect example of how our exceptional services and support have yielded repeat work. We have been working with them for 3 consecutive years to produce various annual reports for the agency. One, the Child Fatality Review Committee, the overall agency's Chief Medical Examiner's overall annual report, Developmental Disability Fatality Review Committee, then the Opioid Fatality Review Committee's annual reports. So this includes everything from helping to write helping to write content, edit content, as well as produce information graphics, as well as charts.
1 minute.
These are a bevy of our other clients across various industries. Some of the work that we are looking for is we're looking for medium to large projects that will allow us to have a national scope. Now, while we've supported organizations that have a national reach, we would like to work on projects with specific national scopes where we're going into various jurisdictions to learn that environment, that culture, and work with those audiences. We love campaigns, so public
30
relations
seconds.
advisory and digital campaigns are something that we're also looking for, as well as supporting businesses with really setting their foundation and moving the needle forward, connecting with their stakeholders. I look forward to talking further about MW Consulting with you.
Well, nice, Marcus. Thank you so much for that. That was well laid out. Great presentation and very interesting. You do, your business does so much. So thank you for doing this presentation. And this time I'm going to turn it over to Franz for your any questions and any feedback that you can give to Marcus.
Sure, thanks, Alicia. Marcus, love the presentation itself, the actual colors. It brought out sort of your imaging, which, considering you're a creative company, brings out your abilities even in the way you present. The only area of concern I would have is, I think, considering, and I know this is more in general because we are a large audience of a bunch of different companies that you're pitching to, but I would say going into a particular presentation with one specific organization, probably gear the pitch to that organization so that you have more time to talk about the experiences that you've done either in the industry or doing what it is you would think that they would need from your organization. And then I think you did a great job with the ask that you want. So I thought that was a good way to finish it. That would be the only hesitation I would have. And I know part of it is the fact that you are presenting to a general audience of people. But would hope going into it that you'd be more specific to the organization so that when you talk about the experience, it doesn't seem like you have so much going on, and then it could be probably more targeted. So that would be sort of the only thing I would add. But great colors, great focus, and presented very clearly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Franz. Tiffany, any questions and comments, feedback?
Yes, I took notes, Marcus. Okay.
I saw you. I didn't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing because you had the blank face and you kept writing. I was like, oh God, I'm about to get my test back with a bunch of red ink all over it.
No, actually, I'm just a different kind of learner. And I know that many of us learn differently as well. So a few things I'll share, you can throw out if it doesn't work for you, but I think it would have been more beneficial to hear your story or to hear a story about you working with a client versus a lot of the bullet points. I didn't know exactly what your consulting firm did differently than others in your industry. So stating like your unique value proposition. Beginning with the benefit, so your slides, what we offer and what we can do for you. Like I probably needed that a lot earlier on, because 5 minutes is 5 minutes can be a long time. And I'm like, well, if he had to do this in 90 seconds, how soon would I know what he offered and how I would benefit? Because of the amount of content you had, you were going pretty quickly, like speaking very quickly. So I'm thinking, okay, well, if he can shorten this a bit and use fewer words, he'd be able to slow down and then be able to tell that story of his business, not necessarily the origin story, but a way for us to connect with your business and then make your pitch.
Thank you for that. I agree with that. Someone else, I got that feedback about benefits being added sooner. So I will take that. I will note that. And yes, I do have different pitches, the elevator pitch and the networking event pitch and things like that. So I can truncate and move the language around and get to the point a lot quicker.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for that feedback.
Yes, no, everybody has a different pitch depending on, whether you are at an event or personal or, at a bar by yourself or a coffee shop, let's just say that. But no, that is one thing that I also see, looking at different businesses that I certify. It's like that business can offer so many, so many services and they don't know which one to focus on.
Right.
Not to say that you can't include the other services, but what's your main service that you can provide? And so that's what you really need to try to, that's your focal point. You know your business better than anyone else. So just focus on that and we also have added service that can come along with that. So all of this is great feedback. And I'm so glad that we still have about 5 more minutes, that if there's any questions or feedback from the audience, remember it's a no judge zone, but feedback is welcome to either one of our presenters. Please put them in the group chat and we'll, we can ask the presenters, or if you have any for the judges, we can ask them at this time.
Thanks, Alicia. I would just add here to the amazing things that have been said by everyone else. Marcus, you are a graduate of the NGLCC Accelerate program. I am lucky to know very well about all the things that you do and what your company can offer. I would say I love the slides and the look, and I would just pare down some of the information on there because I'm so wanting to listen to what you have to say. I'm also going to be visually trying to read what's on your slides. So if you can pare those things down with keywords or visuals, then that way I can spend more time focusing on you. And to that end, Robin, hi Robin, so glad to have you on Sip and Pitch. Robin just put in the chat, and actually Deborah added on here. So Robin said, can we have a little bit of your origin story? And Deborah said a good 360 view of your experience and capabilities as well. So she was saying thanks for that. But can we hear a little bit about your origin story, how you got the company started? And maybe if you want to tell us a little bit about your new business, I'd love to hear about that too.
Awesome. So I started, my short bio is education wise. I have a bachelor's in broadcast journalism from Penn State University, master's in corporate communications from Georgetown, and a host of certifications from Dartmouth and most recently Wharton School of Business. Professionally, I've worked as a press secretary for US Congress. I worked in the first term of the Obama administration, was contemplating going to the Biden administration as well. I transitioned from there over to Booz Allen Hamilton as the senior communications consultant, and then to DC government at 2 agencies as the director of communications. Once I was figuring out what that next move was going to be from state government, I really, I believe that you can't call yourself an industry and you're expert in your industry without having worked in different settings doing it. So every time I transition, I'm assessing kind of where that next step should be, and am I an expert yet? So I looked at the history of my experience, also included being a freelance entertainment journalist, and I decided to take a deep breath and take that leap into consulting space to do my own thing. And that was in 2016. And I launched in August 18th of 2016. And I spent that latter of the year with my student hat on, learning how do you start a business. Like literally, that's what I Googled. So how do you start a business? And getting all the certifications, the paperwork, and the things like that in place to kind of set it up and get all that paperwork in place. And then at the top of 2017, I really sat down and said, what are our differentiating factors going to be? What do I want to be known for? Having been the director of communications at agencies, what have some of the gaps been that where I've worked with consulting companies? And I noticed that a lot of times our contractors have checked the box. So they wanted to, we needed a slide deck done. So they would say, sure, we'll design that slide deck for you, without stepping back to actually learn a little bit more about the purpose of it, who the audience is going to be, so that they can come and recommend some other stuff, right? So saying this may not be the best thing, let's do another, let's do something else for this audience, right? So the reason behind that, I noticed, is because let's check the box and get that check, and let's not highlight where their weaknesses are, so they can keep coming to us and giving us more money. But for us, we like to do a hand-holding educational teaching process so that we can teach you communications, the benefit of it, how it can help grow and advance your business or your program or initiative. And, hopefully you'll retain us. Or if you don't have the funds to do that, hopefully we've given you the tools, resources, and education for you to run forth and be great. So that is one of the values of the company. Since COVID, we've been doing a lot of research about how to position MW Consulting for 2021 excellence. I said position on purpose. I'm so tired of the word pivot. But so how can we position us? And in doing that, we've come up with some great ideas about how we can move things forward and restabilize MW Consulting. But also we learned a lot about the e-commerce space. And so for so long, I've been thinking about launching a CBD cannabis company. So that's in the works. And that is called Remedy. So Remedy is a direct to consumer marketplace for all CBD and cannabis products. So the gap there is that there are a lot of suppliers in Washington, D.C. Who are doing CBD and cannabis products within the legal limits of DC law, and they don't know how to brand and market that to their target consumers. And then on the flip side of it, you have consumers, whether it be for medicinal or recreational purposes, don't know how to find people and don't know how to find different products. So this is a platform where these suppliers will be able to effectively brand and market to their target consumers, and where consumers can find the products in a very convenient, confidential, and comfortable manner.
Wow. That's all I can say is wow. Marcus, you are doing amazing things. And as we have ran out of time for the questions, but please feel free to put in your information. I have a couple of questions that people wrote in the chat box, but I also just wanted to tell you that people have commented talking about, well, this was your pitch, so you did your pitch. And also, like your experience and your presence, now you're a teacher, you could teach somebody, what you've gone through the process. So this is awesome. And we greatly appreciate you for presenting. And Sabrina, did you have something to say?
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just did want to actually get to one of the comments that was in here. Because somebody asked if you could just put up a slide. Yeah, Brandon's asking if you could review the consultant slide really quick. And Brandon says the numbers for each bar in the graph adds up to more than 26. I assume more than one person applies to each category.
Correct. So I can put it, would you like me to put it back up?
Sure, that'd be great.
So Brandon, was that his name? Brandon is absolutely correct. So what this slide is highlighting is while we have 26 consultants, a lot of those consultants have various expertise areas, right? So what this graph is showing is that we have 11 consultants who are experienced with writing and editing, 11 digital strategy, and so forth. So what that shows is that if we're working on a project with Tiffany, Lauren, and Sarah, we're able to support all of the projects because we have consultants with various bandwidth that can pass the hat or the torch, if you will, to another person. So, from an international pandemic happening and someone being impacted by it to just life happening, day to day, client work will not be interrupted because of that. So that's what this shows. Could you hear me?
Yes, thank you so much, Marcus.
Okay.
Yes, and I'm sorry, I'm looking for, there's another question for you from Kyle. About halfway through, you mentioned the 3 W's, who, what, and why, I think. I thought that was a great way to get the point of who you help and how. So the 3 W's was a big focal point for, your presentation whenever it came to other suppliers or to other people viewing your pitch. So,
Yeah, that's the key
I'm sorry, I
stuff.
thought it was a question.
When you talk to somebody, it's kind of like, who are you? What do you do? Why do I care? So when I pull together the pitch decks, that's kind of, I know there's like best practices of how it should look and what the section should be. But I like to, be innovative a little bit and brush against the norm. So when I pulled it together, I literally was like, well, if I didn't know anything about this person or this company, then what would I want to know? And I guess, one of the gaps that I'm hearing is the personal touch that I need to strengthen that up on. It's just so hard when it's just 5 minutes,
Yeah, no, exactly. And I just also would like to just inform everyone that unfortunately our third presenter was unable to make it. So now the floor is just really open to get like expertise feedback from our judges and other corporate partners or any suppliers that you might have. It's just a general discussion. So first, I just want to go to our judges right now to just get your closing thoughts of both presentations. So Tiffany,
Sure.
I'm going to start with you.
Thank you. Closing thoughts. So for Black Vines, Fern, I agree with the massive amount of commentary that's in the chat, that it was definitely well executed. You can see that you are seasoned in your field, that you know what you're talking about, and you're obviously quite innovative, and you're in an industry where folks are not doing what you're doing for the folks that you're doing it for. So your niche is clear and it's exciting, and frankly, very energizing. And Marcus, I think you hit the nail on the head. Yeah, it's just 5 minutes, but you have such great personality and energy. We want that opposed to the presentation, right? Like we want you to present you because you're frankly, you're selling to people. And yes, we want to get to the bottom line and we want to know how much it costs and we want to know what you can do for us. But frankly, what is your unique value proposition? And it sounded very much like that proposition, that unique value was you.
Oh, thank you.
Franz.
Sure. I mean, I would agree with, pretty much all of the comments that Tiffany made. Fern, as Tiffany said, I think, and as the majority of everyone said, as I said, I think your video is a great selling tool because it really brought the experience of what it is you do to light. I think because of how unique your service is, you picked a very good vehicle to show it. I thought it would have been very difficult for you to do that in some kind of a PowerPoint. So I was very excited to see the fact that you had a video and it worked real well at what you had to sell, because it really gave us the experience in a way I don't think any other way would have done that. As Tiffany and I both said before, even if you don't get to say everything you'd want to say, just go off with your heart, because I think that will show, and I think that will more than make up for anything you may have forgotten to mention that you written down. I think going naturally would be the best way for you to present your vehicle. As for Marcus, I definitely agree with Tiffany. I think the funny thing is, as you start to describe your background and you told your story, I really learned more about your capabilities and what you've been able to do and what you would have done just because of the experience that you've lived in your life and walked through, than I learned from the presentation. And so I think what you need to do, because I'm not an expert in being able to do it, or else I'd be marketing right now, but I think what you probably need to do is figure out a way to bring your story and your life story into that presentation, because that sold me more on you than anything else. Not that your presentation wasn't great, because it was, and it showed a lot of depth in what you do, but walking through your life story and the things that you've done and who you work with and the positions that you held and how you had to get there gave me more of an idea of what you can do and what you've had to battle to get there than your presentation did. And so that's really how you have to figure out how you're going to be able to do that. And that's where I think you probably want to spend your time, being able to tell your story in a way that sells your consulting company.
Got it. Got it. Definitely agree. Thank you.
Well, thank you both again, our presenters, Fern with Stroud Management Enterprises and with Marcus with the MW Consulting Firm, and to our judges, Tiffany Keaton with TIAA and Franz Tafo with Nationwide. I would like to also remind everyone again that please join us on Wednesday, February 24th from 2 to 4 for our celebration of Black history, sharing voices and telling stories about the progress, partnership, and perseverance. So we are just wanting to celebrate our Black LGBT entrepreneurships and our leaderships. And whenever I tell you that we have a great panel to share their stories, we are so excited to do this presentation for you all on Wednesday. So register. Again, the registration link is in the chat box, so please be sure to register. And we look forward to having you all on and having conversations with you all about our celebration of Black history and our Black LGBT entrepreneurs and leadership. So if you all will please just join us for our second half, we would have Tiffany Keaton and Franz Tifo, I'm sorry, back for us to join us for the second half for two other fabulous LGBT certified LGBT business enterprises to share their businesses and give information regarding the services that they provide.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to the second portion of our Sip and Pitch Friday today. My name is Sean Franklin. My pronouns are he, him, and his, and I'm the manager of the Stakeholder Engagement Center here at NGLCC, and also a co-team lead with the Communities of Color Initiative Committee. And we're so glad that you're here to join us today. We had a great first hour. We had a couple of great presenters, and we're going to do the same the second hour. Before we get into that, I'd like to talk about some additions to our Black History programming this month. Next week, Wednesday, the 24th, we will be having a celebration of Black history, sharing voices, telling stories. Our topic will be Progress, Partnership, and Perseverance, a celebration of Black history, LGBT entrepreneurship, and leadership. This will be next Friday. We've got a great couple of panels that'll be we will have there. We're going to even have a surprise poet. It's going to be really, really great. So we hope you're all going to be able to join. We're going to put that registration information in the chat. And so we definitely want you to be there on next Wednesday, the 24th. So as I stated, we are going to get started with our second portion of the Sip and Pitch. We got a couple of great presenters that'll be presenting this afternoon. But before that, I would like to introduce our panel of judges this afternoon. We have Tiffany Keaton. Her pronouns are she and her, and she's a Supplier Diversity Program Manager, Strategic Sourcing and Procurement with TIAA. And we have Franz Tifo, and his pronouns are he and him. He's the Director of Supplier Diversity, Sustainability, and Relationship Management for Nationwide. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you for being here. Before we get to that, let's go through the rules and guidelines for those who may not have been here for the first hour. We want to make sure everybody's on one accord here. So each company will have 5 minutes to pitch. There will only be one presenter for each participating company. The judges then will have 10 minutes for feedback and Q&A. No presentation, no problem. This program is designated to be informal and provide real feedback for your company's pitch. If you are not speaking, please mute your microphone so that we'll be able to hear the presenters and that they can give their presentation. Team NGLC will provide warnings, a 1 minute and 30-second remaining. That'll be our lovely Lauren. Lauren, say hello.
Hi, everyone.
She will have the clock here, and she will let you know at 1 minute that you have 1 minute left, and then at 30 seconds that you have 30 seconds left. Don't get upset because she interrupts your presentation, and we don't have anything on Zoom that will give us a zip or a ding or dong or something like that to let you know. So it'll be a voice you will be hearing from Lauren. This is a judgment-free zone designed to help you to enhance your pitch and grow your company. All feedback is shared in the spirit of collaboration. So most importantly, have fun. So let's get started with our first presenter. And that's going to be Authentic Agency. And go ahead.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. There's a sip portion of this, right? Because I have my glass on standby.
Yes.
I wanted to make sure
Yes,
I was being appropriate. Thank you so much for having me. I am Ishina Roman, Executive Vice President of Marketing at Authentic Agency, and we are a full-service multicultural marketing and LGBTQ plus firm. So what does that mean? That means we work with brands, and we work with companies that value the power of those audiences, particularly African American and LGBTQ plus, and that they see the value enough to want to engage with them, want to build a relationship with them, and really have an authentic exchange, hence our name, Authentic, really doubling down on the idea that to really gain ground with those consumers, that audience, you have to be real. We can see through ploys, we can see through tactics, we can tell when something's not genuine, when you're actually not really about the community and you're just trying to sell a product. So we help brands build strategy to figure out how to do that in a way that really resonates with the consumer and builds that relationship. If I may, am I able to share screen? Yes, okay, great. I think a way to really showcase some of what we do is to share this piece of content with you. All righty, here we go. Okay. And never mind, because apparently my system doesn't want to allow me to do that. That's absolutely fine. So we do have a presentation, but I didn't realize I was going to have some connectivity issues with sharing. But founded in 2016, from the very beginning, after really being just displeased with agencies and firms and their approach to these consumers, we decided to start our firm, Authentic Agency. What we really focus in is that power of identity and intersection, right? So what does it mean to you to be African American and to be gay? How does that influence your approaches? If you are non-binary, how does that influence how you interact with a company? So we've helped brands, everyone from an AT&T to an Instagram to a Ford to a State Farm, and even a lot of cultural clients like the National Museum of African American Music that newly opened, to kind of really push the limits on how they're connecting with this consumer and build a strategy against it. Everything from social to content development to brand development to sponsorship evaluation. We really do it all. And I'm really excited about having the opportunity to get to meet you all. How we really start our process is understanding what are your business objectives, what are your goals, and how can we marry that with the consumer's concerns and what motivates them. We are extremely savvy. We are social consumers. We will talk about you positively or negatively. So from our perspective, if you are going to build any kind of marketing approach, any kind of strategy, you have to have the African American and the LGBTQ plus consumer at the center, because we have such strong voices. We can be advocates for you, or we can be your biggest detractors should you make a misstep. But we understand that that's scary for a lot of brands to really reach out and be very focused. So we kind of hold your hand and help you get comfortable and think of ways, data-driven, strategy-driven, expertise-driven, that are going to help you get there. Man, I wish I was able to show that piece of content, because I think it would be really amazing. What I can do is tell you about it. The National Museum of African American Music, which is based out of Nashville, Tennessee, just opened in January 18th. You might have seen a lot of buzz about it. Because of them, we pulled in a campaign during June, which happens to be Pride Month and Black Music Month, and delivered the Black and Proud campaign, which showcased all the ways that LGBTQ plus artists, producers have really shaped and influenced Black music. And that's some of what we really do. Think about how as a brand you organically can start showcasing and telling a story that makes sense, that connects to that consumer, that helps them feel seen, but still doesn't feel like you're reaching, still doesn't feel like you're being inauthentic. Because at the end of the day,
1 minute.
Yes, at the end of the day, those communities mean the most to us. We are obviously certified as a LGBTE. We are certified as a minority-owned business. So it's something that lives at the heart of our business, culture, community, and purpose. If you're not about that, if you're not really looking to impact these communities and leverage their voices in a way that's going to be beneficial, that shows that you care, then in some ways we're not really interested in working on the business. It's extremely important to us. So if you have an opportunity, if you need some strategy work, we have capabilities across all service lines of marketing. Look out for us. It's AuthenticAgency.com. That's AUTHENTIQUE agency.com. And the same name on all social channels, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. So happy to be with you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ashina. That was an awesome presentation. And I love the fact that even though the technology wasn't working for you, you were able to continue to let us know about your company. You could see your passion, and that kudos to you for that. I'm going to turn it over to our judges, and let's see what you have to say. Franz, why don't you start for us this afternoon?
Sure. As you said, Sean, Ashina, I have to say, one, great pivot, especially in a time where your technology didn't work. I thought you did an amazing job in being able to tell your story. And in a way, maybe it was good that the technology didn't work for you because you were able to focus on your story. You were able to let us know the areas in which you work. As you began to talk more about it, I actually got more excited in hearing what it is you had to say. And what impressed me the most was you also know what lane you're in and what you will and will not do. And so you know who you are. Then that came out very clearly in your presentation, which I think is very difficult to do, especially in these days and times. I think everybody tries to be everything to everyone. And you, just like your name, brought out your authentic self. And I think you know, that came out clearly in your presentation. And even though you didn't get to show it to us, I love the fact that you were able to tell us everything that you can do, how you do it, your process, and then your ability to use a case study in a way that resonates to everyone and clearly identifies where you intersect. So really, as I said before, outside of the fact that unfortunately you couldn't show your presentation, I thought you did an awesome job. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Franz, and it's great information. Tiffany, what about you?
So Ashina, like you're probably seeing in the chat, and to Franz's point, I felt your energy and personality immediately. I took notes only because my memory doesn't serve me well. I love the name, but I'm sure you've heard that since its inception, since 2016. I was clear on what you did, when it started, why you do it, who you do it for. The part that I missed, maybe, or you just didn't present, was who you are, your experience. And I think based on all the personality and great energy you shared, I probably would have wanted a little bit of that too. When your presentation didn't work, to Franz's point again, your pivot was great, but moments later you said, oh, I really wish I could have showed you this presentation. I would not suggest doing that again because the pivot was strong when you just said, okay, it's not working, I got this. Versus going back and saying, oh, man, you know, we don't feel bad about it if you don't feel bad about it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, appreciate that.
Thank you.
Great, thank you for that feedback, Tiffany, and concur with what everyone has said so far. I love the name. It took me a moment to, when I first saw, I'm like, what is it? And I said, I got it. And once I got it, I got it. And your presentation was really, really great. And we appreciate you letting us know. We still have a few more times in the judges' comments. I don't know if anybody, let's look and see if we have any questions in the chat.
Well, I have a question, Sean.
Well, go right ahead.
Okay, Sheena, since you have the time, can you tell us, just give us about 90 seconds of who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I'm glad that I'm still interesting after 4 o'clock on a Friday. My name, as I said, is Sheena Roman, and I have lived and breathed marketing, especially for multicultural audiences, my entire career. Actually got my start as an intern for the Wendy Williams experience. I'm seasoned. I won't call me mature yet, but I'm a little seasoned in that I remember her when she had a radio show. And I fell in love with media. I fell in love with speaking to audiences that don't always have a really strong voice. And in some ways, I kind of fell into advocacy with that, because that's what radio was, right? It's a channel, it's a way to have a voice, and started seeking other ways to utilize that voice. In my time there, worked for WBLS FM in New York City, and then this guy named Steve Harvey pulled me in, and I worked with him as his global brand director for quite some time, and then also tried agency life for a bit and realized, wow, there are a lot of brands and agencies out here who are trying to go after these communities that mean a lot to me, just because they see it as a line of business, and not because they truly value it. And it really put a fire underneath me to then later join forces with my business partner, Roy Broderick Jr., and create Authentique Agency, where we double down on speaking exclusively and servicing exclusively African-American and LGBTQ+ audiences, and the intersection therein. Identity is multidimensional, and your approach should be as well. And that's what we help brands do, develop that multidimensional, multidisciplinary approach and strategy.
Now, Ashina, I am from the Bronx, so not only am I familiar with WBLS, I'm also very familiar with Wendy Williams when she had a talk show.
Yes.
So
yes.
So
Same
this
here.
is important. Right? I'm thinking, okay, you could have dripped a little bit of that, because it would have caused me to really tune in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to agree with Tiffany. I think, to her point, I think if given enough time, definitely adding some of those personal effects of your story, not just tell us more about you, which, you're authentic and it goes along with the name of the corporation, but I think just by mentioning who you've worked with, and considering your audience, right? I think both Wendy Williams and Steve Harvey are so critical to the Black culture that, just by mentioning the fact that you work with them and work for them, you don't even have to go any further than that. So I think that's definitely a missing piece in your pitch, and can further explain your story and why you do it. You had enough time to add it. I would definitely add it.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, for me, it was truly validating, because I'm thinking of, all right, so how do I introduce Ashina's business Authentique to my counterparts, right? And as I'm giving them the blah, blah, blahs, right, what is going to cause them to really tune into what I'm saying? As a Black woman who already sits on the Communities of Color Initiative at NGLCC, they already kind of expect me to be an advocate, right? So when I bring Ashina's business to the table and they see that she's a Black woman, she's LGBTQI, they're kind of like, yeah, of course you're going to be running to the forefront for her. But wait a minute, let me share with you a few tips. Let me share with you her experience. All of a sudden now your eyes are wide, your ears are perked, and you want to hear more. Of course you do, because she's already worked with the pros.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's interesting in this work, because sometimes you don't really know who's in the room and what level of familiarity they have with kind of brands and personalities like that. So you kind of start at the level one, but I appreciate having a room of people who know exactly who I'm talking about and really understand the magnitude of dealing with, it's Friday, so apparently I'm telling the truth now, dealing with that kind of, those kind of personalities and the brand work, and too, is also really powerful. So thank you. This is such great feedback.
And just to answer that real quick, Ashina, it's funny that you just mentioned that. If the people in the room don't understand or can't be influenced by what you had to say in your story, then it goes back to your point of knowing who you are and who you're selling to. They should know. And if they don't know, they're lost. So.
Yes, 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 you're absolutely right. And we try to do, you know, it's something that we say internally, you know, as much as our clients choose us, we choose our clients, because we're not in the business of crafting these faux experiences just for the sake of selling a product. We really kind of audit to see where a brand, how committed a brand really is to servicing these audiences. So you're absolutely right. We do try to bring some of that base level understanding of who's in the room even before we get there, because it's really important to us that it matters to you as much as it matters to us. Yes.
This has been great discussion. Thank you, Sheena. The chat is filled with how much everybody loves your energy. So keep that up, because it sparks just wanting to get to know more about you just from the get-go. Also, there was a really good note based on when you said you didn't know who was in the audience. Rose Hatcher with Viacom put, always assume your next client is in the room. So that's good wealth of knowledge to make sure that just assume that next person that you're going to be doing business with is in the room. So spread your wings like a butterfly and fly through that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. This has been fun. I can take a sip now, right?
Yes, you can go right ahead.
Thank you, guys. I hope to cross paths with you again.
Definitely. This won't be the last time we hear from you.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Thank you. I think that was a great presentation. We have our next presenter, which is the House of Herald. Chris did text me that he was having some computer issues, so hopefully that's being fixed, or he's gotten through and he'll be able to show us what he has.
Hey Sean, it's Chris. I'm back. So sorry.
Great, awesome. Take it away.
Awesome. Sure. Can I share my screen?
Yes, you should have the ability to do so.
Okay, I'm ready.
Go for it.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chris Armand, and I'm the founder and chief herald of House of Heralds Arts and Entertainment. I think we all know and can imagine what last summer felt like, especially for those minority and communities. Companies now are under such a spotlight, if you will, like never before. They struggle with finding their competitive advantage and finding context that matches and their messaging that matches their reality, both their employees. Making sure that they not only are they communicating this internally, but they also externally, but they also feel that way internally with their employees. I took this adventure because I've been that employee. I've been that person who felt ostracized, or that I couldn't bring, as we now like to call it, our full selves in the room. So when I founded House of Heralds in 2014, that was me way back then, actually figuring out a way to bring my full self, find fulfillment in the work that I know and I love, which is communications. And as communicators, I know that we saw last summer, not just as a happen chance, but something that always has been for us in the past. One of my favorite quotes is from Michael Porter. Competitive strategy isn't about being different. It means deliberately choosing a different set of activities to deliver a unique mix of value. This quote for me really resonated with me when it comes to the way that House of Heralds conducts our business, the types of clientele that we go after and we seek. We know that you can't just create messaging and hope that your customers will respond. You have to meet your customers where they are and be able to really provide them, I guess, the guardrails, if you recall, to know that you are taking a stand on the things that they believe in. Two, you also have to remember that not all brands are equal. Brands, the definition of purpose is for a reason, something that most companies can all define very differently. But we know that brands that have purpose actually yield more results. They actually have better and happier employees, and that is something that helps brands stick out and stand apart. So House of Heralds is a multicultural arts and entertainment experiential agency. Since conception, I have always loved and enjoy the act of live events, bringing people together, having festivals and connecting with people, putting people in front of storytellers, identifying key audiences that these corporations can actually engage and connect with, and ultimately become a loyal customer, a part of their larger strategy. Some of our clients include Maui Moisture, Atlanta Pride, Netflix, Nike. We've worked with WeWork and Target. All of these really great purpose-driven brands that seek to put people first. And that's one of our reasons for connecting with them. In fact, this summer, one of the events that we actually were able to put together was Essence House. And it was a wonderful opportunity for us to connect and bring storytellers and people together and show them how we put together stories and tell stories to other people. Our philosophy is that curiosity matters, collaboration with partners matters as well. We're solution-oriented, and we believe in that we too and our clients must be purpose-driven.
30 seconds.
Our process is discovery, research, strategy, and planning, creative development, and actualization. If you like what you see and you want to connect with us, please send us an email and let's find out how we can collaborate.
Great, thank you so much, Chris, for that. Love your organization, your firm. I love what it's all about and the connectivity it makes within the community. So you should be very proud of yourself for that. I'm going to go ahead and start off with our judges now. Tiffany, if you want to take it.
Hey, Chris. All right. So great branding. I was already pulled in by the logo. Thought that was fantastic. Are those golf tees?
They're trumpets.
See, look, it's all about how you look at a thing, right?
Absolutely.
I was a golfer, so I saw golf tees.
And that was meant to create that conversation. So I'm glad you actually said what we thought it would. Yes.
Okay. Well, a few points I'll share with you. I like the brief presentation. I appreciated it being short and direct and frankly colorful. Great branding again. You tell stories, but I didn't know that until the end of your presentation. That's what you do. And there was, I'm assuming that there was a little bit of anxiety around, like, you know, the tech not working properly at first, and I get that. But as the founder, as the CEO, I need you to be confident, so I'm confident talking about you. Right. So whatever energy you give me is going to be left with me, and then I'm going to share that same energy. A lot of the questions I get after speaking with diverse suppliers is, so what did you think, Tiffany? And I'm kind of honest. No, I'm really honest. So my response may be, well, he was kind of nervous, right? And that might not be your truth. That would just be my perception. So the more, if you're being yourself, this is a no judgment zone, right? So we can be free to speak here. If you are confident in the House of Heralds, you know what you offer. I need to feel all of that, and I got that like kind of at the end. And if you tell stories, please tell me a story about House of Heralds, like out the gate, so that way you can kind of paint that colorful picture for me. I think that's the theme of today's Sip and Pitch. Tell your story.
Yes.
And it doesn't have to be a personal story, by the way. It's just how you craft the story will give me insight into how you're going to craft a story from our organization. Thank you.
Get off mute here. Thank you for that information, Tiffany. That was quite on. As we continue to go through our programming and creating things with the NGLCC, we're learning more and more. It's that storytelling that people want to be connected to. It's how you tell your story, and that people, I think we're in that time of where everybody wants to just get personal and connect on a personal level, not just a robot or corporate level, but just to know who you are. So that was great advice on that. Franz, what do you have to say for us?
Sure. Like Tiffany said, I love you know, your presentation style. I gotta be honest, I saw golf tees as well, Tiffany. And I think, you know, that right there tells you that you want to be able to have people tell stories just by the mere leveling of the logo. I think it's a great conversation piece. I loved your story. I just felt probably kind of like Tiffany. I felt that I got the story about halfway through your presentation. I did feel the nervousness at the beginning. What I did like, though, was the fact that you were relatable, and the fact that you started to talk about a story that we can all relate to, considering, you know, what we all went through last summer, and being able to put that in a space where you know your audience was, and you did it in a way where, despite the fact that it was a business conversation, we all felt that personally. I mean, there's not a person who in June of last year didn't feel somewhat personal about what was going on between COVID and what happened with George Floyd. So I think you picked a great story to tell, and then sort of relate it to your personal story and why you do what you do. I would just say, to Tiffany's point, be a little bit more confident where you're going. And as I said before, I think where we really got to know more about the story you were trying to tell, and not necessarily a personal one, but where we really got to tell the story of your business and your mission, was about halfway through. Love the examples, love your case where you talked about Essence House. I think that's a great showcase. But yet again, it was pretty much in the last minute or so of the presentation that you got to see that, which is, you know, I think anybody who would want to relate to the audience that you're trying to get would definitely relate to Essence House. And you may want to bring that, as I said, a little closer to the beginning of the story, as well as the list of companies that you work with. Maybe talk a little bit more about sort of what you did with maybe one or two of them. I don't think you need to go through all of them, but maybe if you highlight one or two things that you did for those organizations that everyone can recognize when they saw the logo, I think would help. But, you know, overall, I think great presentation, great story to tell, and, you know, great choices in where you wanted to relate it to.
Thank you.
Awesome, great. Thank you, Franz, for that feedback. I see in the chat, Brian Gorman, who's with Transformative Lives, he just gave a great quote that says, "The human mind is a story processor, not a logic processor." So it tells you again about that storytelling. And since we have a little time, why don't you give us a little bit more about your story, Chris?
Sure. Thank you all for the feedback. I really greatly appreciate it. You're spot on with me just hoping that technology was on my side today, and but we got through it. But thank you for the feedback. I do appreciate it. Yeah, that, prior to, this year, as of this past year, it has been interesting to bring corporations and find people who are wanting to connect with African-American communities. And I've always loved, what I loved about it is just being able to identify those opportunities in the community. I'm an avid volunteer. I love to volunteer. I love to, to serve with organizations I serve with in Atlanta. I'm based in Atlanta. And, I love connecting with people. I feel like it keeps my ear to the ground of what people need. It inspires me to create these narratives when we're producing these live events, and now in the virtual capacity, it gives me just kind of that journalistic approach. So I'm in the trenches with those people that I'm trying to communicate to, right? So I do enjoy that component of my world, and I make sure that it's a part of everything that I do. And that was part of my reasons of making sure that my agency was a purpose-driven agency. And we try our best to, no matter the year or what we are looking to expect, we make sure we partner with brands that mean what they say, and they're standing, and they feel confident standing behind the words that they are communicating as well.
Now, Chris, I would say right there, when you spoke about being an avid volunteer, that would potentially be a competitive advantage, because I'm not suggesting that, most CEOs or creators don't volunteer, but your volunteerism helps you to create or build on that narrative, keeps your ear to the ground. You know what the market needs, you speak the market's language, or, like you can help the organization speak the proper language. That's all so relatable to me.
Absolutely.
And it helps me to tell your story, to be your advocate in supplier diversity with my colleagues at TIAA. If I was talking to France, but France wasn't on this call, I'm like, well, I met this guy named Chris, and he owns this company with the logos with the T's. But I might not remember the name of your business, but I can remember that story that you just told about, like, he volunteers in Atlanta. He's building his business in Atlanta. He's serving companies that have headquarters in Atlanta, like Coca-Cola. Done. France will say, okay, tell me more. What's his website? So that helped.
In addition to that, I say to Tiffany's point too, just by talking about, sort of the journalism, the fact that you have your ears to the ground, you love to tell the stories of the people that you volunteer for and the community that you work with, that right there is part of the story. It's part of what you're telling organizations you can do. That is right there, to Tiffany's point, making you unique to most companies that want to come in and pitch and try to help an organization deliver a message. What you're saying is, hey, look, I'm not just trying to help you deliver the message. I'm trying to educate you in the process by letting you know what the people are going through, so that when you do tell this message that I'm helping you with, people will understand and relate to it, because you need to understand what they're dealing with. And that's a voice that you can give. You're almost bringing the voice of the people that you're trying to communicate to the corporation. That's the value you're giving, because that's why they're seeking somebody to help them.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Listen, I'm
guys.
sorry. I just
Go ahead,
wanted to
Alicia.
jump in, as I had the distinct honor to do Chris's site visit for the House of Herald. And I'm telling you, it was totally enjoyable. And I was very excited to hear about the story and to see everything that you have done and everything that you have built up to this point. So I just wanted, your enthusiasm was great. And I'm so happy to have you being able to present and pitch your company, your business at this time. So I just wanted to give you kudos, as well as Authentique Agency. I was able to I did the site visit with Roy. So I really enjoyed that as well. So just knowing more about these businesses and all of the services that you provide and how passionate, you are with what you do. It's just great to see that enthusiasm, especially for the Black LGBT community that y'all are putting efforts into and growing. So I just wanted to put in my little 2 cents and say kudos to both of you who presented.
Thank you, Alicia.
Thank you, Alicia, and I concur.
Thank you so much.
Loved hearing about both companies. You guys are doing well. And just to piggyback on what she says, my job is to try to get RFPs answered for you guys. So the more I know about you, the better I can be able to fit you to the right opportunities. So thank you and kudos. And I appreciate you taking your time today, to all of you all day long, to come and just spend a couple hours with us and present your companies. And now I know a little bit more about all of you. So thank you very much. Before we get to our judges' closing remarks and we're ending this portion of the program, we do not have a third presenter today. So this is something I should have said at the beginning of the hour, and forgive me for not saying that. We do like to know everyone's pronouns. So if you haven't put your pronoun in by your name, you can update that by hitting the 3 buttons beside your picture and hit, where is it? It used to be there. It's not there. It used to be, you could redo your name there.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, go ahead, Sabrina.
No, I was just gonna say you can hit the ... the ellipses where your image is on Zoom, and you should have rename. Or if you find yourself on the participants list, hit more. There should be rename there as well, and you can go ahead and add your pronouns in next to your name. Thank you, Sean, for bringing that up.
Thank you. Sorry about that. But if you could do that for us, we'd appreciate it. So closing thoughts. First of all, before you guys speak, thank you, Tiffany. Thank you, Franz, for taking time out of your, I'm sure, busy schedules to give our LGBTBE some feedback. Wanted to just let you have the opportunity to give us some final thoughts before we go into our next portion of the program.
Okay, I'll go first. Well, there was something that was kind of sticking me a bit, and that was my own assumption that business owners will come out, really extroverted and excited, and that's an unfair assumption. I think it is. It has to be acceptable and okay for each of us to come out as our authentic selves, even if we are introverted, more quiet natured. But it is the enthusiasm and the passion that we can hear despite whether we are introverts or extroverts. I'm a bit of a half and half there, like a hybrid. I can literally stay in my office for 48 hours and be glad not to be bothered. I live in a house full of people, and I tend to have to engage a lot more often. And so I'm able to turn it off and on, but that's not for everyone. And I think that sometimes in the advocacy space for supplier diversity at TIAA, I'll get these calls and I'll have someone pitch their business, and they're just so dry. And it's hard for me to tell that story internally. And this is my closing thought. Being a part of the Sip and Pitch today allowed me to see 4 business owners present very differently about, frankly, very different businesses, and made me aware of an internal bias that I didn't even know existed, frankly, and that was wanting folks to come out, ready to play ball, right? And that's an unfair assumption, and people have experiences and circumstances like Chris did with the tech that will throw you off kilter and make you maybe not present the way that you typically would. So I learned something today, and I just wanted to, since this is a free space, safe space, I wanted to share my vulnerability there and say thank you for get me to put my own self on Front Street.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tiffany. Mr. Franz.
I think like Tiffany, I learned a lot in doing this today. I I always wonder and marvel at a business's ability to go and leave yourself open to present to a bunch of strangers something that you work so hard in every day. I don't know if I myself could do that, which is probably the reason why I work for a corporation instead of owning my own business. But especially with you two, I know we both gave closing comments with the first two presenters that we had. I just want to thank both of you for telling such a great story in a way that was unique to yourselves. I've learned a lot about your companies. I want to be able to, in each one of your cases, spend more time understanding your stories and definitely want to be able to see internally what we can do in our organizations. And I think there are probably several of our counterparts here that heard that want to do the same. And so, for that, I thank you guys. And to Tiffany's point, I say keep doing what you're doing. And in both your cases, I think it's pretty interesting that, you helped sell it even more once you started to tell your personal stories and your backgrounds. I think in all four cases that we heard today, Tiffany would probably agree with me that it was when we heard the personal stories that it helped sell it even more. So your presentations were great, but then, hearing your backgrounds, who you worked with, what you did, just really actually strengthened your position and what it is you do. And so I'll challenge you the same way I think I challenged, one of the other presenters in our previous hour, is to figure out a way to be able to blend in that personal story, because it highlights really a long history of experience that goes along with what it is you're trying to sell. So find a way to put that in there so that people can see that there's a good amount of experience that goes along with that story that you're trying to tell.
Hey, Sean, do we have time for one more comment?
Sure, go right ahead.
So considering that I think the four business owners are still on the line. Fern, what I recall about your presentation was the events that I missed with hundreds of folks in it, and the fact that you have an online membership model. Marcus, that you work for the government in multiple situations, which is really cool. Ishina, WBLS, Steve Harvey, and Wendy Williams. And then Chris, Essence, and Coca-Cola. So those are some of the things that stand out to me. And ironically, those are not the things I wrote down. I actually went to my notes just so I could recall each of your names affiliated with your businesses. And for me, it speaks to what I recalled and what I would share to justify why I am sharing your capability statement internally.
Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you, Franz. We appreciate that information. Just thank you. Thank you so much. And we're going to wrap up the pitch portion of our Sip and Pitch Friday. We will go into the sip portion in just a few minutes. We're going to take about a 5-minute break. I wanted to remind you about, again, our Black History program that's going to be on next Wednesday, February the 24th from 2 to 4 p.m. Please register. That I believe we'll drop the link in again into the chat. If you haven't already, it's going to be an awesome, amazing program. And we look forward to seeing you there. So take 5 minutes, go grab you your beverage of choice, and we'll be back in for our community and conversation. All right, welcome back. Hope everybody was able to grab them a little something to drink, and we can take it to the next portion for our communities and conversation. How's everybody feeling today? Just get a awesome. Awesome. I'm going to move it so I can see more people and stop the the presentation. So we're basically just going to spend a little time just talking about the community as a whole. We've got a couple of questions that we're going to just shout out there, and then we can talk as a group. It looks like there's about 30 people still on. Do we want to do it as a breakout group, or do we want to just do it as general? Alicia, what do you think?
Yeah, we're going to be doing breakouts.
Okay, awesome. So if you go ahead and pop up the first discussion. The question is based about racial equity, and it's how have the current events and discussions around racial equity and injustice impacted you as advocates, as allies, and or the community as community members. So we're going to go into our rooms, talk about it for a few minutes. We're going to probably pick somebody to maybe come back when we get back into a bigger group and just kind of give an overview of what your room discussed. So we usually, try to make it easy. So what we will do is whoever was certified, who has been certified the longest in your group will be the person who will present back when we come back to the main room. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes, Sean.
Yep.
And I'm going to
Awesome.
send y'all out into this virtual breakout world. Make sure you hit accept or the blue button to get into your room. I'll be keeping time. You'll have 15 minutes in your room. Sean, Alicia, and Lauren from our team are room moderators. So have great conversations, and we'll see y'all back in a few minutes. I'm going to open all rooms. All right, make sure you click to accept.
The sooner we can be like really ourselves. And ultimately, the rule of thumb is to treat people like you would want your friends and family be treated. And then, except for, I guess, those awkward Thanksgiving holidays when maybe you'd have them treated a little bit better. But other than that, it's really just being thoughtful and just being inclusive. That's
great. Thank you, Dominic. And if we have a little bit more time, and if she doesn't mind, I'd like Rebecca to kind of give us an overview of what her chamber is doing. I thought it was very interesting, and if you don't mind, kind of going what you went through with us in the room, I appreciate it.
You wanted me to do it now? Oh, okay. So
yes.
Thank you so much. So for those of you who don't know, my name is Rebecca Wagner, and I'm the executive director of Quorum, which is the LGBTQ+ chamber here in Minnesota. And we are obviously at the ground zero of George Floyd, and we were talking about George Floyd's murder, and we were talking about how the Chauvin trial is starting in 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks, but what we were talking about was what we had started last summer. Was after somebody had said, "Oh, I'll go to my Black friend and ask a question." We were like, no. And so what we started was a program called Square One Conversations, and it's primarily targeted for white people to have conversations about race with other white people. I mean, obviously anybody can sit in, and it's very deeply impacted by by all sorts of voices, but it was a way to stop that dynamic of I have a Black friend, or we have a Black person on our board and oh, we're fine, or racial justice issues don't include me. And in our chamber, we really had to wrestle with a lot of these questions and a lot of this, create different ideas of inclusion and create true inclusion. Across the board, not just for our chamber, but across the city and across the state. And we were uniquely positioned to do that through these square one conversations. And they're called square one because we literally start at square one by talking about privilege. And then there was a great meme, or a great 10 things that, to do after after riots, or what not to say to your friends, or something like that. And we really took those 10 things and built an entire program around it. And it's small group discussion. It is not large group. People it's a safer place for people to ask the questions that they want to ask. And let's be clear, I am not an expert, but perfection is the enemy of good, and we have to start somewhere. And these conversations are crucial to creating true change. And if we don't invest in true change, and if we are not invested in being a part of that change, then what is our goal? What are we doing? Especially when it is so critical to have these conversations, because racism is a white person's creation and a white people issue at its core, right? And so let's just have these conversations. Does that capture it? I know
perfect.
It's
That's very good. I love it. I love it. I love it. And the fact that you guys are taking the initiative to do something that in itself is what's important. And I think if everybody does something like that, we'd be in a better place than where we are today. So thank you. Thank you so much for that. And that's my group.
Wow, Sean, it seems like y'all had a great discussion. And
there's no reason to say thank you that we're doing this. We should have been doing this all along. So that's
no, most definitely. But it's, you made it a point, like at the beginning, you were saying that you're the only minority, but it's about the allyship too, and advocates for you. So it was great that we had, you were able to see the perspective of allies regarding to racism and equality and the equity in America. So next, I am going to turn it over to Lauren.
Thanks, Alicia. So Ashina is our representative, so I will turn it over to her.
All right. Thank you. So overall, I think from our group, there was a feeling of frustration a bit that, wow, why is this now, it's grateful because this has now become a very upfront and public conversation. And, you're able to maybe build coalition with people in ways that you weren't able to before, but also particularly frustrating because, especially if you've been working in this space for some time, it's quite challenging to now feel like, that it took such a severe incident for it to kind of come to the top of awareness of people, but gratefulness at the same time of being able to start the conversation, to initiate the conversation. Some little nuggets. I think that there was a thought around being able to, one, how do you bring those, leverage that opportunity, that interest, and have it be sustainable? Like, now that this is something that you're talking about and we're talking about, how do we use that momentum to really build something impactful while the interest is there, the hope and the positivity that maybe this is something that won't just go away, and it won't be kind of like a momentary thing that people are really excited about and really passionate about, and then it kind of wanes. Also, there was a thought around, how are we taking the things that we were already committing to and speaking specifically to this instance. JC, as an example, is I don't want to assume, but of a diaspora in some way. And but he was a member of a predominantly white fraternity and in a leadership capacity, but now being tapped to, you know, kind of help to lead some of those diversity efforts. So again, like Tiffany shared that, you know, she's a small business owner, but also works at a corporation like TIAA, and now being able to bring some of that thought leadership, that expertise into the things that she does in her corporate capacity. So, and then also just the thought of like understanding that everybody's in different levels of this conversation. Some people have been dedicated to this for a long time. Some people, as much as they see it's a problem, when you start getting into the work that needs to be done, you know, how do you still get people feeling like they can, that this is something they should pay attention to? So just kind of shared, you know, some of the challenges and frustration, and then also the general kind of hope and positivity that this is an initiation of something, as opposed to kind of the start and end of something.
I could just interject and say, Ashita, I love that y'all had such an honest conversation. And I think one of the things that I think about a lot is, where are all of these non-Black allies that were posting all summer long and were being super active and engaged and educating themselves? Like, why is this stopped? And it was all, don't let this stop, don't let this end. You know, this is an ongoing conversation. And it's like, y'all hopped on the train. This has been a conversation that's been happening for decades, for centuries. And you let it last for 3 months. And so I really appreciate that y'all are bringing up that really real sentiment and the real struggle, which is, this is not a moment in time. This isn't a current dialogue. It is an ongoing dialogue, and it will be one until, to Rebecca's point, more white folks and allied folks are jumping in and making sure that this is front and center and not an issue anymore. So anyway, I appreciate y'all bringing that frankness to the conversation. I think it's really important.
Yeah, thank you, Sabrina. Oh, and 2 things. Casey recommended African-American owned bookstore. I think he dropped the URL. I'm not sure if that was in our breakout room or if it was in the main group, but Casey, I think that would be cool to share. And then JC also recommended a book that he started reading that has been really helpful, called The Conversation. So yep, he like just did that. So sharing that with the group.
And that's just not, that book is not just for, it's for allies. It's for everyone. It's really eye-opening, and it's highly recommended by a former D&I, head of D&I at ADP. And she was probably the head of D&I for about 10, 15 years, just really dynamic person. And no, I agree. I'm so glad that we're having this, that I'm on this call today, because I do feel like everyone else that it seems like things have stopped, right? The momentum has stopped, and it can't. We got to continue on, everybody. So.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Rita, can I comment really quickly? Now, at TIAA, I admit it has not stopped. It definitely is a movement, not a moment. And we're really serious as a company. We have the benefit, however, of having a Black CEO, one of the 2 in a Fortune 100. We have a Black chief of human resources. We have a Black female as the chief of D&I. But even if that changes, because there will be some shifting because our CEO is retiring at the end of next month, the heart of the organization will continue to beat with that same fervor, and we'll still have those other folks in leadership. So I do see the those folks who were on the bandwagon, as we mentioned in our separate group last summer, being ghosts right now, but not at TIAA. So I wanted to make that distinction.
Well, that's awesome. And I gotta say, when it comes to companies we work with over 300 Fortune 500 and multinational companies, but TIAA, you have consistently shown up as a company that doesn't just say you're going to do something, but you stay strong and committed to it. And I can say that on a number of things as it relates to trans inclusion, for example. Y'all have been really pushing the envelope with that. So it's really great to see that, Tiffany. And I think, you know, the other thing is companies have such a responsibility in terms of being able to lead the way in this regard. And they can, and especially, I mean, now we have some better leadership in place than we've had the last 4 years, particularly on issues relating to any kind of social injustice and diversity. But we saw, particularly in the last 4 years, how companies were really able to come to the forefront and lead the way on so many issues that we didn't have a larger federal voice speaking out about and supporting.
And you know what, Sabrina, I think that is just a great segue to our discussion. So yeah, no, we had a great discussion, and we had corporate partners, suppliers, and allies and advocates part of my group. So I am going to turn the mic over to Chris, who presented earlier today, to give our notes.
Sure. So as Alicia said, in our group, Alicia, Jada, Deborah, Robin, Marilyn, and Rose, we shared the sentiment across, I guess, across our groups for sure, about just turning our advocacy into action. Another point that we shared was, you know, just assessing and reevaluating our supplier diversity policies and processes to make sure that it's easier to onboard new businesses and make sure that they're growing and they are evolving. The other thing we had was making sure there's leadership. Leadership is held accountable for their actions. They are, you know, not robotic. That they actually, in their messaging, it continues to speak of inclusivity. That speaks of just words of just kind of a change of behavior and how we approach speaking at people, but speaking with them, knowing that, you know, our messaging is going over well and connects with the employees. And then also just being more, we had a quote here, so passionate advocacy into passionate action. And I really like that. It was a kind of stuck out to me, and it kind of sums up a lot of what we shared, and I think what other groups have shared. And then lastly, we said implement more active, implement and more listening sessions, focus groups, speak to our communities and find out what's happening from a local level, and just learning to be more of an active listener, so that we can know exactly you know, what people are wanting to know and what's important to them, what matters most to them. And my group, if you all have other comments, please chime in.
I think you did a great job. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, no, I think you summed it up pretty well. So thank you so much for that. Is there anyone else that would like to state, you know, what they were thinking, or we can move on to our second topic? Give it a second. Okay, well, let's go to our second group discussion and our last one. So here we are, NGLCC and the Communities of Color in 2021, and we're looking forward to, you know, doing more for the different ethnic groups, for the community, for the LGBT community and business. So what programs have you joined from the Communities of Color Initiative, and what would you like to see more of in 2021 from us? So we're going to break out into 2 rooms, I believe, or we're going to do this all together. 2 rooms.
We're going to do 3 rooms again, but I want to add in here, you know, as we continue to do programs targeted broadly at POC and BIPOC, at Asian American folks, at Latinx folks, and obviously at the Black community, and then jointly, and then doing more matchmakers programs throughout the year. You know, we want to know what have y'all enjoyed and what has resonated with you. But we also want your input to help sculpt the future of Coachee. So what better way to do that than here in this program? So as Alicia said, I'm going to put you out into breakout rooms, and you'll have another 15 minutes. There you go. y'all should have notifications on your screen to move over to your breakout. We're gonna make sure to get back with y'all on these. These are great. And we got to listen to Tiffany. She is our co-chair of Coachee after all. So her wish is our command. Lauren, what about your group?
Yeah, so Chris is going to be our spokesperson, but our group had some really great points and we kind of strayed off the topic a little bit at the end, but it was a really great conversation and I really appreciated everyone's point of views in it. So thank you to my group, and Chris, I'll hand it over to you.
Sure. So I would say one of the things that the events that we loved was, of course, the matchmaking event. There was a consensus about attending that event, and it was very it was a great experience. The Crossroads conversation with Reggie Greer that we had back in December was also a really great conversation. And then we started to derail a little bit, to talk about other ideas and other recommendations. And so first, we just, Brian brought up a point about there being a lack of trust within our communities right now, just because of where we are a year later with COVID and everything. And so acknowledging that and then understanding that as we continue to have these conversations, it may be very unnerving to people who have to change their perceptions about how they identify in the community, where they find their place. And we have to understand that that is there's going to be some draw and some friction with having those conversations. So the more that we expand our community conversations by including more other communities and sharing their narratives, Asian, Indian, bringing these collective communities together in some of these conversations. So there's not just one-sided, white and black, but there's more. It covers a diaspora of multiple communities and multiple internationalities, and just making sure that everyone feels that their voice is heard. And just overall, just making sure that we continue to work on that, building that trust, again, partnering, and Brandon mentioned safety, our personal safety, making sure that we feel, the way that we go to the grocery store, this is small, simple things has changed so drastically. So just making sure that people feel supported and they feel protected, and just having those current community conversations around those topics would definitely are some of our recommendations as we start to look at programming for the next year.
Well, I love all of that. And as a Punjabi, Canadian, American, LGBT woman, I definitely am excited to see more Coachee programming targeting BIPOC communities on a whole. So thank you so much for that, and to your group. And Chris, for being elected spokesperson twice today. We appreciate you. Lee?
Yes.
After presenting.
I'm telling you, what's the business name again? No, I'm joking. What's your business name again? But no, thank you all again for participating. We didn't mention anything about what we could do. No, I'm only kidding. I would like to announce that we have Roy Broderick, who is the founder of Authentic Agency. I'm so happy that he was able to join us, and he will be our spokesperson. We had a very great, conversation about how we can implement new ideas and just continue some of the great programs that we have currently. So Roy, take it away.
Awesome. So thank you. So in my group, we had Alicia, Marilyn, Rebecca, Samantha, and Alaric. I'm praying that I got it right. All right. And me, of course. And then, so our idea. So we loved the mentorship program. We thought it was great, and a great initiative that really not only shows behind the curtain for suppliers to understand, what corporate partners really look like, but also really build that trust with the brand. Chris has already mentioned matchmaking, so I won't go there, but that was another one of ours. And then we have 4 new ideas. So One of my group members, Samantha, brought up WeBank has a Shades of Success program that they do, where Black women talk about their struggles or even successes that they've had when trying to establish contracts with corporate partners. And so having something like that would definitely be very insightful for brands to hear, but also for other suppliers to be able to hear some of the hurdles that they might have to face, or just ways to avoid some of the missteps or things that others have had before them. We also talked about doing more custom programs, so really based on the supplier makeup. So for instance, with Women's History Month being next month, could you do something with the intersection of LGBTQIA women, and how does that connect the two? So there's a smaller, safer setting with more programming that would be beneficial to them. We also talked about wanting to have more ways to encourage corporate partners to use their tiered approach. So being very realistic that, it takes a long time to be a tier 1 supplier. So how can, NGLCC really help encourage them? Because some brands are already doing it. Rebecca shared with us that, Best Buy, US Bank, a few others are kind of doubling down on those initiatives now, and that, it's good they're having the conversation. So just really being encouraging. And then finally, more resources for chambers and their leaders, for them to understand how to have more crucial conversations so they can be better allies. Because as we all know, we all are in different places. So Atlanta looks a lot different than Canada, and Canada looks a lot different than Oregon, and so forth. So really being able to have NGLCC be a resource to help folks have those crucial conversations. So that's my groups.
This is awesome. And I'm loving that I'm already, Alicia, Sean, Lauren, drawing so many parallels between things we're launching this year and a lot of the things that were just shared, and then a lot of great ideas to enhance the things we are doing. So y'all stay tuned. There's some exciting things coming up in the next few months and throughout the rest of this year, but we really appreciate y'all taking the time to be here and share this space with us, spending your Friday afternoon with us into your evening. Alicia, I'm gonna turn it to you to close us out.
Well, thank you, Sabrina. So first and foremost, I would like to thank Team NGLCC. I would like to thank our co-founders, Justin Nelson and Chance Mitchell, for giving us this opportunity and for having the vision of the Communities of Color initiative. I like to thank my team lead, Sean Franklin, who is great and has assisted me. We worked with each other to get these programs together. And to our co-chairs, we have Tiffany and we have Earl. We will be in communication. This year, it's like this year is like in a sprint. So no, thank you all so much for your support, Sabrina and Lauren, for staying on here after hours. It's Friday, but most importantly, to our stakeholders, to our LGBT suppliers, and to our corporate partners. Without you all, we wouldn't be here. So thank you for that. And we hope—
And our affiliate leaders, Rebecca.
And our affiliate leaders. Oh, I'm sorry. How did I forget the affiliate leaders? Oh my gosh. And to our affiliate leaders, thank you all so much. And again, remember to tune in on Wednesday for our Black History program. It's going to be great. It is going to definitely be great. And, we look forward to doing this for each, minority voice in the LGBT community and the business community. So we are excited about the different programmings that we have in store for 2021. And enjoy your weekend. Get off, finish your sip, and enjoy your weekend. So thank you all again. Have a good weekend.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Alicia. Thanks, everybody.